I'm Alex Brown, and I'd like to introduce you to the Bare Deck Concentrated Load Tool. This tool, in combination with the Bare Deck Web Crippling Tool, gives you visibility on the shear capacity of your selected deck. Specifically, this tool asks for the uniform design loads, then tells you what leftover capacity there is for additional concentrated loads to be applied. And with that, let's get into it. As we get into the tool, first thing to see are these tabs across the top here. We're going to spend all of our time in this summary tab, but if you want a deeper look at what the calculations are kind of under the hood, behind the scenes, that's what these tabs are for, is to give that full transparency of how the values are being calculated. This first section is defining what the deck is that you're looking at. The second section is getting into the uniform loads that are being applied to that deck. You can adjust the bearing length. Our Bare Deck Web Crippling Tool is going to be a really good resource for dialing in what these values need to be. And then you can control kind of the spans of the final outputted tables using these fields here. And then these numbers here represent the sum of concentrated loads that can be hung within a rib of the deck within a span of that deck. So the space between two supports, that span in between. So in this case, 3.5-inch dovetail acoustic. The 24 is how wide the sheets are, so 24 inches wide. 18 gauge grade 40 deck. In a single span condition, can carry 400 pounds worth of concentrated loads in addition to all of the design loads listed above within one rib, within one span. And this is going to be a good resource if, say, you're an engineer of record and a general contractor calls you and wants to hang a 100-pound unit directly from the deck. So something like that, rather than having to do a full-on analysis or get a hold of the manufacturer or anything like that, you can pop in here and easily get like, yep, I've got a 400-pound capacity. 100 pounds is no problem. So let's jump in and change this up a little bit. You'll notice that non-composite deck without a concrete fill and roof deck are other deck options. And when you change that, that does change all of the values below. That's intentional. A lot of our other tools work this way too. And that's just for safety to make sure that we don't get an invalid combination of deck type, gauge, grade, something that doesn't exist. So we'll go ahead and flip this to our 1.5-inch punch lock B deck, 36-inch wide coverage, 22 gauge, and grade 80 is pretty widely available in the market. And you'll notice that automatically calculated the self-weight of the deck as 1.6 PSF. So I'm from the Midwest myself. These loads look a little bit light to me. It's not unusual to have, say, 30 PSF of snow load and maybe 15 or 20 PSF of dead load. So we'll bump those up here. And without changing anything else, if we scroll down to that same table, you'll notice it's looking pretty empty. And the reason for that is it's still at the 10-foot span going up by a foot. For an 1.5-inch deck, 10-foot spans really aren't realistic in the first place, so it's definitely not going to have any additional capacity for point loads to be added. So if we back that down to 5 foot, and then we can set that increment at 3 inches or 0.25 feet, now we're getting a lot more realistic range for this particular deck type. And you can see what those capacities are. And I do want to point out the span conditions, single, double, and triple, refers to the 1, 2, or 3 span condition of the deck. And as it gets more spans, it's generally going to get stronger. And that's the Bare Deck Concentrated Load Design Tool. This tool allows you to quickly determine what concentrated load capacity your deck has after considering your other design loads. And with that, happy specifying.